Hey there. So, if you've ever tried to trace your family roots back through the Appalachian Mountains, chances are you've hit a huge brick wall right around the late 19th century. Well, today, we're going to unlock a really special record that can bridge one of the most frustrating gaps in all of American genealogy. And this quote, man, it just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? It perfectly captures that feeling you're cruising along, tracing your family line from census to census, and then poof, it's like they just vanished for 20 years. The trail goes completely cold. So this is what we call the genealogist's cliff. You've got this great detailed census from 1880, and then another one in 1900, but in between is just this 20-year black hole. Why? Well, back in 1921, a fire tore through a government building in Washington, D.C., and destroyed almost the entire 1890 population census. Just a massive, heartbreaking loss. But, the story doesn't just end there. Because while the main census went up in smoke, not everything from that year was lost. And this, right here, is where our investigation really gets interesting. So, the big question is, right, was it a total loss? Did everything burn? Well, thankfully, the answer is a resounding no. A completely separate set of records actually survived, and it contains an incredible wealth of information. And this is it, the 1890 Veteran Schedule. Now, its official title is a real mouthful, the Special Schedule of Surviving Soldiers, Sailors and Marines, and Widows. It was created for a totally different reason, to get a headcount of Union veterans for the U.S. Pension Office. And because it was a separate project, stored separately, it survived the fire.
Okay, so what can you actually find in this thing? What kind of details are we talking about? Let me tell you, it's way more than just a list of names.
I mean, look at this. The level of detail is just incredible. They didn't just write down a name, they captured the veteran's rank, company, and regiment, their exact service dates, their post office address in 1890, which pins them to a specific place. And this last one, this is absolutely critical, a column for any disability they incurred during their service. It's a genealogical goldmine.
Now, a little bit of a bummer here, not all of it survived. The schedules for states from Alabama through Kansas were lost. But the good news is, most states from the latter half of Kentucky all the way through Wyoming did survive, including Washington, D.C. And for anyone doing Appalachian research, that partial survival of Kentucky's records is absolutely key.
And get this, here's a really fascinating little detail. This whole thing was only supposed to be for Union veterans, but the census takers out in the field, they often just recorded Confederate veterans too. Sometimes their names are crossed out, but sometimes they aren't. That means you might find an ancestor in here you weren't even looking for. All right, so we know what this record is. Now for the fun part. How do we actually use it to solve some of those Appalachian family mysteries and bridge that 20-year gap? This schedule is just such a powerful tool. First off, you can finally confirm military service, turning that vague family story about great-grandpa being in the war into a specific unit. You can trace disabilities and start to understand the very real, long-term human cost of the war. It's also invaluable for locating widows and tracking how families moved around. You can even find whole clusters of veterans from the same unit who all ended up living as neighbors. To really see how powerful this is, let's look at a real-life example. Let's make this tangible with the case of a man named James H. Lawson. So here's the puzzle for you. In the 1880 census, James Lawson is listed as an independent farmer. He's the head of his household. But fast forward 20 years to 1900, and he's living with his daughter, listed with no occupation at all. So what on earth happened in that 20-year gap to cause such a huge change in his life? The answer wasn't in the 1880 census, and it wasn't in the 1900 census. The answer was found on a single line in the 1890 Veteran Schedule. And this is it, the crucial clue. In that disability column, the census taker wrote down two little phrases: chronic rheumatism, result of exposure. This one note directly connects his physical struggles in 1890 all the way back to his time served in the Civil War. That one little note, it was the key that unlocked everything. It led researchers straight to his pension files, which were filled with statements from his neighbors and friends confirming that his chronic pain, especially in the cold mountain winters, made it impossible for him to do heavy farm work anymore. The Veteran Schedule didn't just tell us where he was in 1890, it told the story of why his life had changed so dramatically. So, as you can see from James Lawson's story, this record is about so much more than just names and dates. It really reveals how these huge national events intersect with very personal individual lives. And that's really why this record is so special. It's a meeting point. It connects the battlefields of the Civil War to the front porch at home. It connects national events to the day-to-day realities of life in the mountains. It shows us how service and survival are intertwined with migration and the family networks that really held Appalachia together. In the end, what this record reminds us is that a single census year, one that was almost completely wiped from the history books, can still carry the profound weight of service, of sacrifice, and of the quiet, unbreakable persistence of our family lines. So, I'll leave you with this question. Have you ever looked for an ancestor in these records? Have you found someone whose story was just waiting to be uncovered? An entry that completely changed how you understood your family's journey? It's a powerful reminder that sometimes the biggest stories are found in the little details that manage to survive.